Call this meeting of the Gladstone City Commission on Monday, January 12, 2015, 7 p.m. to order. The first item on our agenda is invocation. Commissioner Gill will be leading us in invocation. Please rise.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you this evening that we can come together as a community and deal with the issues, the various situations that we have to deal with. Father, we thank you that we have the opportunity to do this. Lord, we ask that you provide us understanding and give us wisdom as we go about making these decisions. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. To our left, we have our United States flag, Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, would the city clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Mackey,
He's here.
Commissioner Bostwick,
Here.
Commissioner Gay,
Here.
Commissioner Mattinen,
Here.
and Commissioner Nemechek.
Here.
Next item on our agenda is public comment. We have public comment at the start of our meeting. We have public comment at the end of our meeting. So if anybody'd like to speak with the commission, if you would take the mic and identify yourself. Public comments right now, or we can wait till the end of the meeting. We've got a gentleman wanting to speak.
My name is Ken Levine. I live at 2722 South Hill Road, number 25. I'm sure a bunch of you's already heard about the compost pile. Now, these people have been coming in there ever since it opened, haven't paid a dime. We got ours raised to $59.40 a year now, Gladstone residents. That's anybody got a meter in Gladstone. We got these people that got mailing addresses of Gladstone, Michigan, like Branton Township, Escanaba Township, Wells Township, all got that, and they claim they live in Gladstone. Well, when you tell them they don't belong in there, they tell you, well, I'm coming back anyway. I don't think it's fair for us Gladstone residents to pay $59.40 a year, and these people have been coming in there for nothing. I caught 101. Another guy got 58. Another guy got 50, I'm not sure about 55, 56. Now, that's only being down there a half hour at a time. The last day before the snow, they were lined up out to the main road, and in that line there were 17 people that didn't even belong in there. And not one police officer made a sign that arrested anybody or give them a ticket. They should have been tickets. I don't think we should be paying $59.40 a year and nobody else is paying nothing. It's not fair to us. It's not fair to the people of Gladstone. I was born and raised in this town.
What are you paying $59.40 for?
For the compost pile. $4.95 a month. They raised it another 95 cents this year. I can understand why they raised it, because every day you go down there and the bulldozer's pushing the stuff all the way back again. On weekends, Saturday and Sunday, you go down there, the stuff's out to the road where they come in. And these people have been coming in there and they don't care. They said, I'm coming back. I don't,
Can we bring this over to the city manager, please?
pardon?
I'm going to bring this to the city manager
Sure, go ahead.
for a response. I've gotten this complaint as well, and I know the commission has had a very brief discussion about the resident versus non-resident usage of the compost facility. As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have rules saying you cannot use the facility if you are a non-resident. Is that correct?
We just had a sign posted at the entrance of the compost site 6 weeks ago. I've met with Mr. Levine several times in my office, talked about this. I promised him a sign, which I have delivered on. The next thing I'm working on is I'm working with the Brampton Township Supervisor. We're gonna send a notice in the notice of assessments that go out in February of every year to all the township residents, telling them if you wanna use the Gladstone compost site, you need to come to City Hall and purchase a permit. I've gotta figure out what the fee for that permit's gonna be yet. And then he asked why I haven't offered that to Wells Township. Brampton Township came to me, that's why I'm working with them. I can absolutely offer it to Wells Township as well.
What is the fee going to be?
I haven't determined that yet.
It should be more than ours, because they've been going in there for ever since it was open. And we got citizens of the city of Gladstone waiting in line to get into the dump their leaves or whatever they got, and these people are taking up the space. I don't care what it says, it's Gladstone compost pile. It doesn't say Days River Township or whatever. It says Gladstone compost pile. So that means Gladstone.
You're not getting any disagreement here. We're having a discussion right now, and I'm trying for the public to understand what staff has been the reaction of staff to your complaint, and you're not the only one who's complained,
Okay, I
so they
have
are
another
doing
one.
something.
I got another one for you. That gate over there, you were on vacation last week, the day after Christmas. For 2 days, that gate was open again. I saw 2 construction trucks going back in there dumping stuff. I think it was concrete, I'm not sure, and it wasn't Gladstone trucks either. I can tell you who it is if you want to know.
Please don't mention it in public.
No,
but
I
you
won't,
might
but
report
I'm telling
afterwards.
you, I know who they were.
Well, I got to tell you, I have received a separate complaint from our Public Works personnel that the contractors that have up to this date dumped, mainly concrete is the biggest complaint our Public Works people have. They're not very orderly about how they dump their material, and their material is dumped in such a way that it requires an awful lot of work for our equipment, hard work on the equipment, to move it. And they weren't very happy about that usage as well, but have there been steps taken to close that down and the gate
Yes,
happened to be left open?
there's only 2 keys, and the director has one, and the next most senior person in DPW are the only 2 people that have a key to that gate.
What else is being dumped back there besides
Hold
cement?
a minute, please. Mark, you might want to take the mic, maybe. Please, please. Tell everybody who you are too, by the way, Mark, in case anybody doesn't know.
Sure. I'm Mark Palega. I'm the DPW director and the electric department director as well.
Okay, as far as the gate goes, the gate,
We put a lock on there. There is more than 2 keys right now, Darla.
Oh.
But I have a new lock I'm gonna put on there, that I'm gonna give one to Barry and then have a key for myself. And that's all that'll be out there. So yes, there is some dumping going on with concrete. That's not right.
What else?
What's that?
What else?
Oh, there are building supplies in there,
Yeah.
drywall, other
I took a
things.
walk back there, I saw what's back there, and that is city property that they're illegally dumping. Michigan has a law about illegally dumping. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, it needs to be locked up.
would the public safety director want to comment on this? Or,
We know of the problem, the lesson, we're trying to deal with it through patrols and also via complaints.
so you will follow up on a complaint if somebody gives you a name, right?
Yeah.
That's the guy to contact if you have a complaint and you have a party that you saw dumping in there.
I saw a guy with a station wagon.
But this is the guy you'd want to call.
Call our office.
I saw all kinds of stuff being dumped in there. The bags, they're not even emptying the bags. They throw them in there without everything with it.
But
And
you
then you
got-
get that in the mulch.
You gotta get on your phone and call public safety when you see that.
But I'm not the one responsible for doing that. It's supposed to
Well,
be
I
done
guess
by
what-
somebody. When you was.
I guess what I'm saying is this: if you see somebody and you give them a heads up, they can catch them. They've got routine patrols going on there, but if they're not there at the time that the dumping is taking place, they're not catching them. So if you see somebody, give them a yell,
Well, give me an answer to this. Why wasn't any tickets issued over there?
because they haven't caught anybody, I'm assuming.
Or they didn't check nobody?
I don't know which day he's referring to.
They came in there on a Sunday, a woman officer, and they come over and talked to me. And when they were talking to me, there was 2 guys over there from Brampton Township. I knew one of them because he lives by my brother-in-law over there. And it's, when you had that years ago in the other place, I hate to say it, but I will say it anyway, you did a good job
Thank you.
taking care of that.
Thank you.
And there was no mess and garbage going in there and all that stuff. And it
I
should
guess-
be, if the money we're collecting from these people, everybody in Gladstone, how much money is that? There must be over 1,700 homes here. Nobody's told me how much money's collected for that.
I'm sure Darla could get the figures. I don't know that you have them right now, but
I don't have a budget in front of me, no, I don't.
Well, if you multiply 1,700 times 5940, how much does that come out to?
42,000.
I don't know if 1,700,
Oh, more than
I
that.
don't know.
Has anybody got a calculator on their phone? Here's one right here in the front row. Got that?
How much?
100,000?
Yes, that's what I figured. So why can't we have anybody there? So we don't have all this baloney all the time, people going there. I know a lot of people told me right out that we're dropping off their leaves and that. Why should we pay when everybody else is paying? That was the remark that several told me.
Well, I guess the commission is going to have to decide what we want to do about that and give some direction to staff about how much enforcement we want to do.
We've also talked about other facilities that we have that non-residents might have to start paying for. Other than, beside that, I'm total agreement with you.
I mean,
When I see
spent-
people up there that I know don't live in the city, it bugs me too, and I know it's wrong.
You know, I was
But
born.
we're talking also about the beach, and we're talking about
Yeah.
other parts of the city that are maintained, that you and I pay for, other people use for free.
You know, this town, I was born and raised here. We had everything here. We had 4 grocery stores. We had 2 drugstores. We had a bowling alley. We had a theater. We had a bakery. We had all kinds of stuff here. Even when I retired in '94, there was still a lot here. And everybody keeps saying, oh, it's the economy. Well, if the economy is so bad, why is everybody else is picked up? Even Escanava's getting new business. We get business in here, all the other taverns and restaurants that don't stay open.
I think we're diverting from the main subject. I think the commission is going to be asking, just so happens we're at budget time, we're gonna be having budget hearings. I think this commission is gonna be asking staff for proposals for the commission to put into the budget for more enforcement at that area. I would think, do the rest of the commission agree with me on that?
Yes.
Yes.
So hopefully that's a partial answer to your question, Mr.
Yes, it does.
Levine.
That's part of it.
But I'll emphasize again, I know it's not always popular, I have to pick up the phone and call on somebody, but if you call an officer when you see something
Well, you know,
happening.
it's hard for the police officer to get up there. Like I saw people up there. By the time I would call the police officer, they're gone already. How's he gonna
Well,
do that?
what you said was, though, that nobody's getting a ticket. Well, the officer can't even begin to attempt to issue a citation if they're not
Well,
there.
I didn't see them check anybody. Let's put it that way, while they were there.
Well, the problem is, right now, we have, again, you know, there's no, we just stated, there's no ordinance that says that you can't dump there if you're not a city resident.
There is a Michigan law on illegal dumping.
The definition of illegal dumping is,
They're not
Could
dumping
be
there
quite-
legally. They're not paying.
how do you establish whether it's illegal? You have to have something that states that it's not legal. If it's not expressly written as being prohibited in the state of Michigan, it's legal. If we don't have an ordinance that says you cannot dump in that particular area unless you are a city resident, we have no leg to stand on for an argument.
Over there?
I don't know, I haven't seen
Sign
it.
says Gladstone Compost. It doesn't say any other place, but Gladstone. It doesn't
We have a
say,
sign up now we didn't have
Bays
before.
River Township or Escanaba
Unless
Township or nothing like
it's
that.
expressly prohibited, written down, it means nothing. So
Well,
what we're getting to is, you can't have one of our public safety officers write somebody a ticket and doesn't have some sort of MCL or ordinance to reference as to what their violation was.
I don't agree with that.
Well, there's no law on the books that says there would be, you know, there's no law on the books that says you can't wear brown shoes.
Okay, why
Yeah, but,
wasn't something done about this a long time ago? I know there's other people around this town, including the manager, that knows people were dumping there.
When you brought it to my attention, Mr. Levine, I asked you to give me 1 month to get the sign up,
Yes,
and
I agree with you.
I'm
And
taking
I also
steps to
agree
get,
about the gate that you talked about. I agree with that too.
Yep.
But I don't know.
I'll put a new lock on it. I'll put a new lock on that gate
That's-
tomorrow.
I mean, now that's not legal dumping, I know that.
I don't like them doing that either.
All right, thank you, Mr. Levine. Like I said, at budget time, I'm sure this is gonna come up as something the commission's gonna direct staff to come up with better rules for. Any other public comment? Yes.
I'm Richard Juno. I live on 707 29th Street. I've been trying to get a school crossing signs or lines painted on that road for a number of years.
On M35, you
There's-
mean, right?
29th Street.
On 29th Street.
Because you come off of Mapleview and those kids are crossing there every day. And
North of M35.
I don't know
Are
how.
you, are you talking north of M35 on 29th Street? North of M35?
Right.
Okay.
Because, you know, I predicted on 35 somebody was gonna get killed. And we had a person killed there.
Sure.
And are you gonna wait now until somebody gets killed at that crossing?
Have
I
you,
have information on this.
city manager's indicating she's got information on that, so I guess there's,
I talked
Mr.
to Darla.
Yeah, Mr. Juno brought this
I
to my
talked to the
attention.
chief police.
And we, staff and I met with MDOT a month ago maybe. We asked them about that. They are not in favor and said we cannot put any crossing on M35 unless you have a designation of where these kids are going, a permanent sidewalk. Is that
No,
true?
it's not on 35. It's
Across
29th Street.
29th. Right, but when they cross 29th, we're sending them down a street. There's no permanent path for the kids to travel on safely once they cross 29th Street. That's what MDOT told us.
You're coming off Mapleview. You know where Mapleview is?
Yeah, yep.
And you're crossing to the school. You're crossing 29th Street right there, where those buses are parked.
But there's no sidewalk
That,
on
that's
Ma-
nothing to do with 35.
We had the map right in front of us.
There's no sidewalks on Maple.
Right.
And that's, when you talk to.
So you're gonna wait until somebody gets killed there?
No, that's not what
to
I'm
do
saying.
something?
I'm just saying that MDOT's engineers.
You just never did nothing about four-wheelers until that kid got killed up on 35. And then you cracked down on him.
Well, the accident you're referring to happened up near Brampton.
But that kid went to that gas station, North 29th Street, or North Bluff, and gassed up and then took off down that way.
He may have.
He did.
He may have, but MDOT has changed their policy along M35 along M35 as well.
I have a
Now they
suggestion
have-
then.
Now they
Put,
have a
put
route.
3 stop signs there.
Where now?
I just told you, Mapleview.
No, but what I'm saying.
Put 3 stop signs there. Traffic that comes off 420 is traveling 40 miles an hour. And when you hit 29th, which is residential, they're going 40 miles an hour.
We have done.
They don't slow down.
Well, we have done as much speed enforcement, you know, we've been trying to do more speed enforcement up there.
You are never there at the times I told you. You come there at 9:30. 9:30, all the traffic's off the damn road.
We're
Are
there
you
as-
waiting for somebody to get killed?
We're there as much as we can be, sir. We have all other areas of the town to cover as well. And I only have maybe one person working at that time of the day, 1 or 2 people to handle the entire town. We get there as we can, but we have the same complaints down by the Jones School. We have the same complaints down by, you know, the middle school. We get there as much as we can, and we have done as much, and we'll continue to do speed.
You go down to Jones School, you got 3 signs, stop signs on each side of that school. You go up here to Cameron, you don't have a damn sign. Not school crossing, stop sign, nothing.
What-
That's your responsibility.
It's actually MDOT's responsibility. We don't have the authority to put those particular signs that.
on
You
M35.
can't put a stop sign up? It took me how many years to get a goddamn speed sign up there? 25 miles an hour.
Well, it's 25 miles an hour it's a residential area. It changes when it goes farther down on 29th Street to 35 miles an hour. 25 miles an hour is the prima facie speed.
How long did
limit.
it take me to get that sign there?
Technically, you don't even need a sign there for it to be 25 miles an hour. It's in a residential area.
People don't know it's residential. They come off a 40-mile-an-hour road.
But the sign.
They cross the 35 and they're still going 40.
But it's posted 25, and we've been trying to do as much enforcement as we can up there. The issue of a 3-way stop there, I don't believe it would be justified via a traffic engineering study, which has to be done to make those changes that you're talking about. The county recently put in a three-way stop sign up at Tipperary, and the state of Michigan came in and had issues with that stop sign that they put in because it wasn't based on a traffic engineering study. And the numbers and speed counts that are through there. It was based on a couple of accidents that happened, and the County Road Commission put that in there. They're still looking at that issue. I can certainly do a speed study and a traffic study. We can ask QPAD to assist that and do that up at 29th and Mapleview. But I can tell you that MDOT would not recommend a three-way stop sign at that intersection based on the distance that it's from the intersection.
So you can't put a stop sign there unless MDOT tells you to?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if a traffic engineering and the studies and based on traffic engineering guides does not recommend it.
I'm
then
not
we would
worried
be-
about traffic studies. I'm worried about those damn kids that are crossing there every day.
Okay, Mr. Juneau, have you talked with the public safety director and city manager before? I think you indicated you did, is that correct?
I have.
Okay,
I haven't got no satisfaction. That's why I'm
I
here
just
tonight.
asked a question, you answered it. Would you like me or a member of the city commission to sit down with yourself and the public safety director and see if we can resolve this?
I would appreciate that.
There is one option I just wanted to mention. I had a similar situation at an organization I used to belong to. We had certain days where we had a lot of kids there, and the kids would they'd have to cross the road because all the activities were on the other side. And I had asked the same thing, I believe, I can't remember his name, previous public safety director in Escanaba. I contacted him and asked for a crosswalk, and he said the same thing. You'd have to do a traffic study and blah, blah, blah. But they were able to put up, I can't remember exactly. I can get the information, but I remember, I think it was slow, and it had, you know, a picture of kids walking, something along those lines, like more of a caution sign, and that did not require a traffic study. So maybe that's an option. It would at least get somebody's attention, let them know there's kids walking there. It's,
Commissioner Gay, would you like to sit down with the public safety director and Mr. Juneau and discuss this matter and come back with a recommendation to the city commission?
if they wish.
I do rely heavily on MDOT because I don't have a degree in traffic engineering. It's forced upon my position, but I rely on MDOT's engineers to kind of give us guidance in those areas. And we had a meeting with MDOT, and I'm just telling you what they advised us up at the time. I'd love to have another meeting with them and discuss it and see if we can do something there.
Paul, you don't need a study. All you have to do is sit in my living room and watch those cars every day that are going 50 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. And I tell you what time that they're doing it. 7 to 8, 8 to 9. 3 o'clock. 10 minutes to 3 till 3:30.
And I've told
And there's no police there.
I've told our officers.
9:30, your officers come up there. Now, I know they got a lot of relation in this damn town. And they don't wanna hand out tickets.
That's not it at all.
You could probably pay your salary in one day up there.
We don't receive funds that way in tickets, and that's not the reason I have them up there, would be to issue citations, it would be to solve the problem. And I will get them up there as much as I possibly can, but there are other responsibilities that need to be taken care of at the same time.
The problem is not being solved.
Okay?
That's
I will
why
work
I'm
on
here
it.
tonight.
Okay, I've asked the public safety director and Commissioner Gay to meet with you, Mr. Juneau, to sit down and discuss the matter. We have plenty of time to discuss it. I would ask Paul to get a hold of the parties and see if he can put together a meeting.
Can I be a part of that as well?
You may.
Dealing with the street.
You may.
I'd like to be a part of that.
Yes. I think we have another public comment.
Hi, my name's Tim DeClaire. I'm over on 10 Waterford Avenue. As you guys go into your meeting tonight, trying to discuss adding more revenue, I want to remind the city commission and everyone here that it was just last June, they took the 1.8236 mils back from us that they gave us in 2012 because we have to pay for our garbage collection without so much as a public hearing or public input or even the voters. Took it back from us. Now I'm looking at what you're proposing is asking for another 3.17, and we might get the 1.8236 back if we vote in the 3.17. Let me go down a couple things for you as you go through this meeting to keep in mind. In this town, from what I have seen, I have no statistical data, but I've been to over 700 homes in this town. 60 to 70% of these people are on a fixed income, and I think that number's low. You've got flat revenue, you have no businesses to attract residents to come here. Most common complaints from the people I have talked with, City Hall isn't open, they don't answer the phones. It says they're 9 to 3, that's ridiculous. I mean, even Escanaba is open from 7:30 to 4. You need to have someone here to either answer the phones, take a message if there's a complaint or a concern or information that needs to be passed on. Someone's got to be available to the public. Taxes are too high. Most of these folks don't understand the concept where our total taxes between what the city has for the millages, then add on all the rest on our tax bill. They don't care if we're one of the lowest city operating millages. They look at their bottom line, and their bottom line is horrible, as are the rest of ours, for city residents. Snow plowing is terrible, not just this year. Other than the fact that I have talked with Mark, I know he's working on some issues, but in general, the streets I'm walking, I can't walk the sidewalks because the residents aren't even plowing half of them. Try to walk the streets, I'm falling on my rear end. I'm kind of getting tired of that. I've been here for over 12 years, and I'm walking through all the streets. I've seen conditions where they can get the plow trucks out. If it's snowing on a Saturday, don't wait till Monday. Get them out when it's done snowing.
Tim?
Yeah.
You know Mark is still new to snow plowing.
I understand it. That's why I referenced that. I'm already working with him on a separate issue that he's as far as I'm concerned, he's very professional in how he's dealt with me. Most of the people know the school district ramrodded a millage through a few years back. There's just no more money. Past and present city managers, not polite, don't care about their problems. City Parks and Rec Director, impolite, not professional. City Treasurer, not polite. City DPW, pick a complaint. There are many. Right now, the complaints are typically about snow plowing. I've heard them all. I mean, all of them. More than I care to. Most residents feel that the city employees and the city commissioners don't care about the residents. Gladstone area schools, just so you know, took your 3.7 mills about 3 years ago when they had the 18 mil bond renewal. There were 6 mills they didn't need. They just ramrodded it through. They did something highly illegal that no one cares about in order to send a political message using a taxpayer-funded database, using private emails. It was brought to their attention. They did nothing about it. It was brought to the attention of the AG's office and the United States Attorney's office. They didn't do anything about it. They have your money because there is no more money left. You're going to squeeze these people to a point where they can't even sell their homes. You're just going to have to walk away. Like I said, you already took the 1.8236 mils from us without even asking us first, and I'm here to tell you that's just plain wrong. It took you 5 days to raise our taxes. It took you 3 months to decide not to even deal with chickens. Your admin fee for taking our tax bills, the 2 checks I write every year that don't bounce, are based on the value of my home. That's just plain wrong. I've worked hard for what I have. Because I have a home that's more expensive than others means I have to pay more to write you the same 2 checks that don't bounce. Make it a flat fee straight up if you're going to do that. I just don't even agree with the fee to begin with. Your charter franchise fee, that's just unfair. And then the bottom line is complete lack of basically what people perceive as leadership. And just so you understand, I'm not lying about it. These are signatures from city residents who are ticked off. They're fed up. They don't have any more money. They don't have any trust in City Hall. They don't have any trust in the City Commission. That's the bottom line. So when you guys go in and start talking about what you want more money for, keep in mind the residents are ticked. They're not happy. Not everyone can be here. But I'm going door to door with a small group getting these signatures. And by the end of the week, we're going to have them submitted. And the 3 of you commissioners that are up for that recall are hopefully going to take this serious finally, because they're going in this week, Thursday or Friday.
You are staying for our public hearing
Sure.
and public comment at the end of the meeting?
Depends what you guys do.
Thanks, Tim. Anybody else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Leighton. I'm the youngest one here, so I'm trying to represent the
Are you
young.
bragging?
No, not at all. Ben Hewitt and I just bought a house on Dakota Avenue, 1218 Dakota. And we love it. We're so glad. We're both from Gladstone, and we're so happy to own a house here together now. But we have mostly great things to say as far as we're concerned. We've only owned a home since September. But one issue we've been dealing with is, you know, we're young and we work hard. We both have a couple jobs to survive. So, as most of you understand, our electric bill has been wrong since we first bought our house. And for someone very efficient and who works hard, it's very frustrating.
What do you mean by wrong?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So we, on our deposit, or our deposit amount as new homeowners was, I think, asked to be 100 more than normal, or what used to be. So when I saw our bill and saw that it was $100 more than I was aware the deposit was, we came in to pay that, and she said, well, the lady I spoke with at the desk said it went up in August, went up $100. And I looked everywhere that I could find to reference that, and I did not find anywhere to reference.
Can I stop you there for a minute? Is that, is this,
That's our new fee schedule that was approved in June, takes effect in August, or, yeah.
Well, I
takes
was
effect
told
in
it did
August.
change in August, which would be correct. We
Yeah.
bought our home in September, but I didn't see it anywhere.
okay.
So they were very nice and took the money off the bill. We got our next bill in the mail and we had a late fee. And the next bill in the mail had a late fee. And tonight I didn't bring it out of my bag, but I do have the pink slip that shows if it, you know, if it were April or later that
And the
our,
late fee you feel is incorrect?
it is incorrect and it's been fixed each time. And I know that this is a minor issue, but being new residents, it's frustrating.
Sounds like a software issue.
Of course.
Maybe. We pay our bill right here though, and I guess the next
No,
level of
what
my
Commissioner
complaint.
Gay means by that is that the software isn't being corrected so it doesn't hit you with the late fee, right?
It's just automatically throwing it back in your next bill rather than whatever the
Right,
query that needs to be modified, so
sure,
Yeah.
and we
And you're
do,
getting tired of pointing it out to people, is that correct?
correct, and however, when I did point it out to someone this last week when we walked in, I was given the card to call the 855 number, and, you know, for someone who works 3 jobs and busy, I want to have enough time to have a family one day. I took the time to come in here yet again, was very polite, very nice, and I'm here to talk to someone, not to be given an 855 number. So I just wanted to voice my concern as a young person and that, you know, paying bills should be very easy.
So you certainly hope you don't get a late fee on your next month bill, right?
Right, well, when I read the pink slip too, and that it said that, you know, should it be April or later, it would be legal for our electricity to be shut off. And for us who keep paying it, if not paying it early, just frustrating. We're trying
hear
to
ya.
join the community, not, you know, be frustrated by it.
Can we talk after the meeting? I'll get your phone number and we can meet
Yeah,
about it.
that'd be great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Director Guyer.
Just a couple of, Paul Geyer, representing Public Safety, just a couple of comments on some of the things that were addressed already. I just wanted to make the commission aware of. We do have an ordinance on the books, section 42.32, the solid waste ordinance, that does allow the city manager to create rules for disposal of things at the compost site. So we have posted those rules. We will try to enforce them as much as we can. I cannot make any guarantees. The best way that it would be set up is if we had a system like we did many years ago with a gated facility that had a person there watching people to come in. Unfortunately, you know, I don't have control over setting that up. I'll try to get our officers up there as much as I can, checking.
Does the rule you're citing also allow the officers to issue a citation?
It would allow under that section, you're violating the rules of a compost facility, yes. In regards to the school zone and crosswalk, Mr. Juneau, I will get with you. I think we should get Jay Colbertus, the superintendent of the Gladstone schools, and also the principal up there at the Cameron School, have a meeting with you, me, Darla, those individuals, Commissioner Gay, discuss the options that are there. I know there is a concern up there, and I know you've brought all those times. I've put all those times out to my officers. I know there's never a cop there when you need them. I understand that feeling and that concern. I'll try to get them up there as much as I can. I will reiterate to them that in my memo that's going to go out tomorrow to them. And we'll work on those issues. I just wanted to make the commission aware of those two things. So.
For everybody's information. It's just information. I'm not asking you to agree with me, Mr. June, or anything like that. When I used to work here, when I worked here, there was always a minimum of 2 officers on duty, and quite often 3 officers on duty. Commissioner Gay and I have kind of taken it upon ourselves to push really hard for another officer to be added. And Director Geyer said, well, if you want me to add another officer, please give me some assurances that you're going to keep that man working. So we're advertising for a 9th officer. There are a lot of times when he's only got 1 car on the road to handle anything that might happen in the city, right?
Yeah, certain times of the day, there's only one on, or there's one on plus myself, which, you know,
So it's really hard for that 1 officer to be everywhere.
And I understand that. But I can't understand why you put a damn pond on that hill that cost $38,000 when he could hire another officer.
Most of that was grant money.
What it was.
Well, it wasn't money that was available to hire an officer. It was money available to dig a pond, because that's what was stipulated.
The purpose of my coming up here was just to make sure that you're aware that I will address it again. We'll try to look into it. And the issue with the compost site, we will try to address that as well. We do rely, though, on people calling us when they do see something happening like that. And I know a lot of times we're not even able to get up there right then because the officers are tied up on incidents, but we do try to look into it the best we can. So,
Thanks, Paul.
thank you.
Anybody else? All right, we're going to move into our regular agenda. The first item on our regular agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists tonight of the City Commission regular meeting minutes of December 22, 2014, the Parks and Recreation regular meeting minutes of November 4, 2014, and payment of bills.
I'd move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Commissioner Mattman moved, Commissioner Gay supported to approve the consent agenda as presented to the commission tonight. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion is carried. Next item on our agenda, we're having a public hearing tonight to consider whether we're going to ask in May to discuss or to levy an estimated 3.17 mils to fund a new fire truck. That's the first panel over here that you see. Equipment, which is our second panels. City Hall renovation, I better put my glasses back on. That's back in the rear panel back there, the second panel. Public safety officer, you won't find a panel for that, I don't think. Oh, yes, you will, okay. The third panel is public safety officer. DPW building is several panels here, and to replace fleet is also DPW. Those are 5 items. Last year when we levied millage that had been not levied for several years, we levied in a very short period of time. Mr. DeClaire was absolutely correct. There wasn't a public hearing for that. And obviously that wasn't the most popular thing to do. As a result of that, Commissioner Gay got a hold of me and said, I have a thought. This was in December 15th, 2014. I'm reading as I'm looking. And so after discussion at the City Commission level, we decided to have a public hearing for sure to consider whether we're going to ask the public in May whether they want to vote on a millage item. If we are going to vote in May, we have to have this item settled. We have to decide if we're going to put it on the agenda, on the millage or on the election in May, no later than February 10. We could always do it later, but if we want to get a question on the ballot in May, we've got to decide by February 10. So we're having the public hearing tonight. And having said that, I would ask Commissioner Gay to kind of give the background to the public as to what you were thinking when we discussed this matter.
Well, I guess a little background. What we did previously, we had 1.8 mils previously assessed for solid waste collection. And some of us felt that that was kind of disingenuous, or pick a word, but basically the person that had a more expensive house was paying the same, or paying significantly more for the same service as someone with a house that's, say, $20,000 taxable value. So basically we decided to go to a fee schedule. At that point, the city commission was under the impression, that 1.8 mils was only for solid waste. It was not, we weren't able to levy that and put it into the general fund. Fast forward, 16 months, roughly, and it was brought to our attention via an attorney that could be levied. My objection to it was the fact that it was a very short period of time. The public was not made aware of it. We had the legal right to levy it. I had a problem with it because I thought that the public should be more involved in it. My second problem with it was that we had no way to restrict it. That 1.8 mils goes into the general fund, and the next commission or the next commission could take that money and do whatever they wanted with it. It wasn't restricted for use. So I was thinking about this, and I thought that this might be a way to come back to the public and ask the public what their priorities are. We were talking about the city of Gladstone being having the lowest operation millage in the UP for a city, and that's true. Escanaba, I got an email from one of the city councilmen in Escanaba busting my chops about considering higher taxes, and my response was pretty simple. We still operate at 2 mils lower than you do for an operational millage. City of Escanaba is between 17 and 18 mils. Even with the added 1.8, we're at 15.6. The reality is we have a very high school millage here. Now, we have broken down what we view are priorities, things that need to be done, and separated out as to what we need in order to bring those to fruition. But I thought that this would be an opportune time to allow the public to provide input to us and to make the decision. So basically, we're putting it back in your hands. What's your priority? What do you feel is important? This is what we've listed. We've got the City Hall renovations, Public Works Building, Public Safety Officer, which I wanted to put a little caveat to that. The Public Safety Officer, this commission's already directed the city manager and the Public Safety Director to hire a Public Safety Officer. However, in the event that this is approved, the 1.8 that was levied will not be levied next year. That was my thought on it. It would be replaced.
What you're really talking is a net of 3.17 minus 1.8.
Correct. From where we are now, which is 15.603. So basically, remove the 1.8, replace it with a voted millage that the people have had input on and had an opportunity to vote on. I thought that was the best way to at least try to turn things around and get more public input, but most importantly, that allows us to restrict these funds. We can, and we will have to probably, I've got a question on how, do we have to itemize these out and have each separate questions?
I think we'll get to that tonight in front of the public, of course, how the mechanics of this would work if it goes to a vote, but I think that's later on in the discussion.
Yeah, well, ultimately, my two objections to levying the 1.8 back in June was that, one, it couldn't be restricted, and two, we didn't have public input prior to the decision. And I thought this was a good way to rectify that and get the community involved to make the decision and provide us with your opinion as to our priorities.
Okay, as far as procedure goes, I'm not going to the public yet. I'm going to come to you guys after we have more commission input, if there is any, and after we have input from the city manager, then we're going to open up the questions. So, Commissioner Nemechek, is there anything you'd add to that?
I made the motion for the 1.8. I don't think it was wrong. It was a reinstatement. I'm new to this commission. I've never been in public office before. I've always been in business for myself. I saw needs. I saw equipment. I saw all the things that are listed, and there was no way to pay for them. Now, we can talk about hearings, and I think hearings are important, and I think it's important that this be made available for people to vote on, whether it's voted yes or voted no in the public. I think that we have to do our job. I honestly think that there's no logical reason why the city of Gladstone can operate on 15.5 mills when the rest of the world is between 17 and 21. It's not logical. I mean, we have the same needs, we have the same expenses, but, you know, I made the 1.8 mills because this is representative government. I was voted to represent the government, the people. Now, public hearings, I understand this is a public hearing on this, but to say we didn't have a public hearing, the public hearing wasn't necessary, it wasn't required, and it was millage that had already been there before. I mean, I know that some people took deference to that, and I think that's fine. I think that the right to recall somebody is a very important right, and I think that there has been a plus to the process by Mr. DeClaire going door to door. I think he's raised the awareness of the problem, the situation, and he's also, I've obviously had an opportunity to hear from a lot of different people. I think that's been good, and I don't ever have a problem with the recall process. I think that's a very important right. So I think that we would be remiss in doing our job unless we made this available to the people of the city of Gladstone to vote on, all this increase. I knew when I made the motion that 1.8 wasn't enough money, but at least it was a start. But I think it's important for us to give the public an opportunity to vote on this to see if they want to support this or not. Yes, if we have a problem in Gladstone because of the high school millage, school millage here is over 24 mills. Very high. Anyway, that's my comments. I would vote in favor of this where it be taken up for a vote. I know we have a lot of other expenses that are mounting, increasing each year, mainly our health and welfare fund, I know, is getting to be more of a problem as years go by. But I think it's important that we make it available for people to vote on.
Mr. Bostwick?
Well, I did not agree with that 1.8 because there was no public input on it out of you guys, and I mean, I do think we needed a public safety officer in that, but without us finding out about it at the last minute and then having to agree to the 1.8 to decide on that meeting, I didn't think was good. So, and I definitely knew the public did not know anything about it. So I thought it should definitely been up to them if they wanted it or not. So that's about all I got to say.
So when you're exhausted, Commissioner Gayers, and more you want?
I'll talk in a little bit.
Okay. Commissioner Mattman?
I would agree wholeheartedly with Commissioner Nemechek on this. I think he stated it very well, and I couldn't have stated it any better. And I'll leave it at that.
One thing I'd like to add, this is my concept of what's going on here, and obviously the commission's got to make a decision, so this is just a concept in my head right now. I believe that 1.8 mills should go away if we put on the ballot to levy 3.17 mills. I believe that's what Commissioner Gay's concept is. Is that correct?
Yes.
However,
let me clarify that. If it's approved, the 1.8 will not be levied.
Ever.
well, first of all,
I can't speak for future commissions.
we can't tie the hands of future commissions.
So the 1.8%'s in a little box underneath that.
Yeah, I also said the public gets to speak later, so please, let's go. I'll give you plenty of opportunity.
I'm trying to understand his comment.
And the answer to your question, I believe, is that we can't tie the hands of future commission. A future commission can do something completely different. Anyways, I was talking. What I meant by that 1.8 mils going away is this, and you and I have discussed this. I believe we've made a commitment, and whether I'm on this commission or whether I'm not on this commission, I'll hammer whoever happens to be here. We do have to find the money to fund that additional public safety officer we've committed to. That would be just completely morally, ethically wrong to not find the money to pay for that 9th officer. So that's a commitment we have to make. Everything else that you see on these panels here are things I definitely think we need to be doing. But if we don't have the money to do it, we can't do it. That public safety officer we have to pay for. We don't hire people and lay them off, and then hire people and lay them off. That's just crazy. So all those other items would be funded if the people decide at an election. This is just my concept of how this is going to go, by the way. This isn't the way it's going to go, or could go this way. If the people decide they want to levy 3.17 mils, these are the things we would attempt to do in addition to that public safety officer. But I believe we're already committed to a public safety officer. I hope the rest of the commission agrees with that. Like I said, I'll take great pains to remind anybody who's sitting in this office of that point, because we have far too many times when we have one officer working alone. And it's not just on traffic incidents. It's when you get in serious incidents where one officer alone could easily get into a very bad situation and somebody could be killed, and that's just not right. So we've got to commit to that.
One of the important parts about this, about doing it this way, is this millage, that would take these funds and restrict them for that purpose. In that respect, we could tie the hands of future commissions because they couldn't legally spend that money for anything but that purpose.
And I don't know that we have the answer tonight to that question, but again, conceptually, this is just Joe thinking out loud. I think the commission needs to put a question out there that says we will levy 3.17 mils. That money, in my mind, from an accountant standpoint, would go into a capital improvements fund, save the amount for a public safety officer, which is not a capital item, but rather an operations item. And from that capital improvements fund, the future commissions would budget for these things.
We would have to bond for it. Because if we hired a contractor to build a DPW building for 1.5 million.
Well, yeah, we'd be borrowing the money and we'd be paying off the bond
Right.
with the proceeds
Right.
from a tax. Absolutely,
Right. Yeah,
absolutely.
okay.
But the money would go into a capital improvements fund and it would be used in this case. Say, for instance,
Right.
if we were to do one of those plans for a public works building or
Yeah.
to buy a lot of this equipment or to buy that fire truck, we would be borrowing money to buy that fire truck, for instance, and we'd be using the proceeds from future years of taxes if the voters say, yeah, we will levy 3.17 mils on ourselves. And we would be taking the proceeds to pay the yearly bond payment for a new fire truck or for that building. But I believe, and the reason why I'm having this conversation is because I believe we need to tie it up that way so that it doesn't get used someplace else.
How is that a better, I understand for the capital projects, for the building, et cetera, but how would that be effective for a public safety officer?
Well, I believe we need to say, we're gonna levy 3.17 mils. This much of the millage would be for a public safety officer. So that goes from the capital, from the tax trust and agency tax fund to the general fund to pay for a public safety officer. This much goes to buy new equipment for public works. This much of that 3.17 mils goes to pay for a new public works building. This much goes to pay for a fire truck. And that's all it gets used for. And I believe the commission could tie the hands of a future commission about those 3.17 mils. And I don't know if you have that answer tonight. Have we gotten that far in our research?
Well, I've contacted Edward Jones, just because that was a company that some staff and I met with 6-8 months ago.
bonding.
For bonding,
Right.
yep. They would work with Miller Canfield, who's a bonding attorneys. They could help us with language. They would match, repayments. They would match that amortization schedule. How do we pay it back, and how long would we need to levy it for?
Understanding?
Mm-hmm.
We basically, I
I'm
guess.
just trying to figure out how that plays in with being that public safety is paid out of the general fund. How do we make sure that those dollars go to a public safety for a public safety officer? That's, how you have your
Just
Bay
millage
College
would just go into a
has-
restricted fund, that's all. But Mr. Barnhart's question is, I believe, is that the 1.8 goes away, but future commissions could reinstate that without any public hearing.
I believe they probably could, but I don't know the exact answer to that. They probably could.
I mean, just to clarify what he was questioning.
The city clerk has something she wants to say. Thank God somebody's paying attention to you.
So the 1.8 is, it's in our charter. City residents long ago, when they approved the charter, gave this commission the right to do that 1.8 for operational, as they had done in the past. And the very recent past has been, they restricted it for operations for solid waste. So unless you do a charter change or whatever, and that's voted on by the people, that you can't take that right away. That is in the charter. So future commissions could levy that for operations. That is not, to say it's not a voted on, back when the charter was adopted and voted on by the people gave that right to this
The
board.
corollary to that is next year, the city commission could revert back to the millage rate that was levied before this year. Because once a year, we have to vote on the
Right.
millage rate we're gonna levy.
That-
Right now, we're levying the 13 point whatever mills we're levying, plus we levied an additional 1.8 mills. Next year, we could say, no, we're only gonna levy 13.1, and if the voters should so decide they wanna levy 3.17 mills, so be it, and this is the things we would do. But I believe out of our operational millage, we have to be committed to that public safety officer. We made a decision, I don't believe we can reverse our course, and I don't think it would just be a wrong thing to do.
Mr. Mayor and the commission and the public, in regard to one of the issues on here, the public safety additional officer. And that was approved back in September, October, I believe, and I don't think we've actually finished that process, am I right? We haven't finished that
Soon.
process. Soon. It's my belief that without the additional millage that we're looking at, that we cannot sustain that position. We've agreed to that we want to, the commission, have a particular dollar amount for fund balance. And we're gonna be eating into that without additional millage. So I think that's something that we have to think about as well, because if we don't get approval at some
Okay, but
point-
out of the 1.8 mills that we levied this year, which we had authority to levy, which is what Kim just said, but we didn't levy it before, we went back to the charter authority we had to levy that 1.8 mills. That whole 1.8 mills does not fund a public safety officer, it funds more than that.
That's correct, but our expenses are gonna continue to go up. And
Sure they will.
see, this is where the issue is you get 2 and 3 years down the road. As our expenses continue to go up and our revenue doesn't keep up with that, this is my concern.
It's also my concern as well there that when we levied more millage, that Mr. DeClare's point was correct, that there's a lot of people who are having a hard time paying their taxes here in Gladstone, and we know that the taxable values of properties in Gladstone are capped out, or at least I know that. The taxable values are capped out, so that the result of that, what I just said, is that property tax revenues, which is the main source of revenue and always has been, always will be the main source of revenue that we do all the things we do in the general fund, is pretty much flat revenue each year. And in addition to that, the state changed their taxing methods for businesses in the state starting around 2011. And the result of that is about 1/3 of the money we used to get from the state. And those are the two major sources of revenue for the general fund. That's what you're pointing to, correct?
Yes, that's
Flat
correct.
revenues, while expenses increase, especially the health and welfare, as Commissioner Nemechek said. So we know that there are certain expenses that we're going to be hard pressed to control with declining our flat revenue.
And we do have other liabilities, employee liabilities that we have through our retirement system, and like you said, additional health care that are gonna be, we know are gonna be rising and rising quite drastically here probably over the next couple of years. So, you know, there's other things in the pot here, you know, other things in there.
I think a public safety officer is absolutely necessary no matter what. And I will fight for that. I don't care.
I will
It's
too,
just the
whether
way
I'm
it
on the
is.
commission or whether I'm not on the commission. It's a
I mean,
commitment we made and we need to stick to, in my opinion.
We haven't specifically told the public how much less we're getting from the state, and I think that's important.
Well,
also.
I'm gonna say off the top of my head, and I'm using figures that were given to us a long time ago by the city manager. Basically, we used to receive about $300,000 a year from the state in revenue sharing, and that was because the state relied primarily on something called a single business tax, which I'm guessing when you were in business, you hated. Most business people I ever talked to hated it. And when Rick Snyder got elected and he took office January 1 of 2011, one of his first priorities was to eliminate the single business tax and replace it with a mission business tax. That's all really nice. The result is there's a lot less money available. So where we used to be getting about 300,000, we're getting maybe about 100,000 now, or about a third of what we used to.
We're getting $200,000 less from the state per year, which represents 2 mills. 1 mill in Gladstone generates $100,000. Just so the public knows that the city of Gladstone gets $200,000 less per year, which represents 2 mills. And therein lies a good share of our problem. Because I didn't know that before I came here. And I suspect most people don't know that.
And so
It's a huge amount of money for a city our size.
And so to sum this all up, we think there are items up on those panels there that we're not doing right now and we haven't done for the last several years, which you can get away with for a while, but eventually fire trucks start to fail. The equipment you plow the streets with every day gets older and older and harder to maintain, and maybe you can't maintain it anymore. Your public works building, which is already way beyond its design life, it's about 15 years beyond its design life, is still the facility used for all your public works activities. City Hall, which we made a commitment to the citizens, we were going to stay in this building, we're going to do maintenance as we could, and capital items, it's right up there in that panel, get harder and harder to fund because health and welfare costs being one of the biggest costs that's going up, and we have very little ability to control. Crowds out a lot of City Hall, so those items somebody's going to have to pay attention to and do something about. I think it's up to the voters to decide whether they want to make it a priority or not, and it's not going to be an easy question because Mr. DeClaire is absolutely correct. I mean, if you walked up and down the street, you'd hear the same things. This is not a wealthy community. I believe staff has a presentation, so we're going to have staff do a presentation, then I'm going to go out to the audience.
I was just gonna go to each board and kind of explain what's on them.
However you want to do it.
I'm just gonna move this one temporarily so Adam can zoom in on it with the camera there for the, because this is being taped and it'll be played, aired again on Charter later. So one of the items we talked about, this is the fire truck, not maybe the exact fire truck we're gonna buy, but Director Geyer and some volunteers are working on specifications for what kind of fire truck we need here in Gladstone. And then so the estimated cost on the fire truck is $335,000. And then the equipment needed to outfit the truck and the volunteers is an additional $215,000. So total on the truck and equipment is $550,000. This past fall, we applied to Hannibal 2% money to see if we could get any of this $200,000 for equipment. They came back and said, sorry, try again later. So we will continue to seek grants wherever we can. We've been very successful with Hannibal 2% grants. They've paid for portions of police cars in the past, and I think we have a pretty good working relationship with the folks at Hannibal. So we'll, anytime in the future that we can apply for grants and receive them, we can pay off, a portion of the bond or refinance or whatever we can do at that time. So fire truck and equipment, this is a general fund item. We've kind of tried to identify where the money comes from for these kind of budgets. So $550,000 of the 3.17, that would be 0.5 mils, a half a mil would be for the fire truck and equipment. Any questions on the fire truck and equipment?
How long would it take to pay that off?
Well, we're gonna have to work with either Edward Jones and the bond council, because we figured on the fire truck, replacing some fleet in City Hall, like a 15-year term for that. but 1.5 million for the DPW building would probably be a 30-year. So I don't know if we would
Part of the
combine
reason
that
for-
into a 20-year.
Part of the reason
you
for
know.
that is that Public Works building would last a lot longer than the fire truck,
Right,
so you'd stretch it out longer.
but we would have to work with the bond council on how long it would be.
There are banks that do various financing for fire apparatus, and usually those loans are 5, 7, or 10 years on a fire apparatus. USDA will go a little bit longer, and 15. You know, and of course, all those, depending on how much money you put down, would be the term for paying it off.
Darla, has anyone looked in to see whether the current truck can be repaired, if so, how much? Or can another truck lightly used, some departments do get rid of trucks, and they have a lot more money than other cities. Can a used truck be replaced as a temporary measure for the next 10 or 15 years?
Sure. We did price fixing the existing truck. It's a 1988, and a lot of the parts are no longer available.
Okay.
So we're having to bring them like to Lambert's, and they like make parts and piecemeal it together.
The wrong term was being used, a rebuilt truck, I
Rebuilt.
guess would be the terminology, right? Anyone know if that's a viable?
I don't know if the committee looked at a rebuilt or refurbished.
We've looked at it, probably not completely in depth as far as, everyone that I've spoke to, including the person who sold us this truck back in 1988, when we talked about refurbishing this truck, said, you're nuts if you can't. This truck, replacing the chassis and the pump is one issue, but this truck was never spec'd for our community. Both the mayor and one of the other commissioners have gone out with me in the truck. It's not designed for our Bluff Hills. We have the bluff that we have to respond to. It was never designed for the Bluff Hills. In my opinion, it was a mistake back in 1988 when we purchased this truck, but it was a decision that was been made. We've tried to when we've gotten by with it for a very long period of time, in my opinion. You know, the NFPA standards on primary apparatus say nowadays that it shouldn't be older than 15 years. We have 2 trucks that are older than 15 years. So, and we are a 2 truck size community. We need to have 2 apparatus. In terms of used apparatus, there are several out there. You know, I get Fire Trader, which is a magazine of the Midwest where a lot of the fire apparatus have come from, for our area. It depends. You know, a lot of trucks are spec built for communities. You know, we're trying to, what we did with this truck and the new relationship that we have with Escanaba Township is we've tried to spec this truck much the same that they have. We have areas of the city, and the water superintendent can speak more to this, that still aren't hydranted, you know, and we suffer a little bit in our ISO rating because we have 2 trucks right now that don't have a good water carrying capacity. This truck that we're looking at to spec out has a 2,000 gallon tank on it. That's in one truck alone, that's more than, you know, we have in both of our trucks right now. So, you know, there are some things. One of the things when the city manager talked about equipment is we have not replaced our air packs for many years. The air packs that the firefighters use. We still have an older 30-minute rated bottle that's heavy. Some of them don't meet current NFPA standards. They meet the older standards, which are still grandfathered in, but there's air packs that are close to 15, 20 years old there that we're looking at replacing in one process, because you can't, the 2 aren't compatible to have both systems in place and try to, with the 1 hour bottles, with the composite bottles, with the new system. So that's why the extra equipment is added on to that.
So Paul, you mentioned our other truck is a Pierce, which is already over 15 years old, but maybe that's an option if that needs to be retrofitted or updated. Is that an option for that one?
Could be. One of the things that's changed a lot in the firefighting world is foam. Foam is used a lot more. We have neither truck that has foam capabilities. We're asked to do a lot more today with rescue extrication, vehicle extrication. We don't have equipment that allows us to do that. It's nice to have the relationship that we do with Escanaba Township, but
You can add foam to one of your pumpers, but you don't have it on the pumper right at all time.
right, you can't, it depends. It depends on if you have the size in your
That
pumper.
truck right there, the Escanaba, it's got foam on it when he runs out the door.
Yes, yes. And this truck is a little different than the one you see that Escanaba Township has, in that it has a top-mounted pump with a walkway through the pump panel, which is like our Pierce, which is more utilized in a city setting like what we have. You don't have to worry about which side of the road you pull up on, where the truck operator can see both sides of, of an incident. So we've had a truck committee that's been in place almost for a year now. We have a meeting this coming Wednesday where we're gonna talk about the specs of the truck, and try to put it out for bid. This is an estimate on the cost. Obviously, when we put it out for bid, it could come in under, it could, we just have to wanna go through that process to see.
Do you think, Tim's question though, do you think you could find a refurbished truck? And would you consider a refurbished truck? A department, obviously, that has more money, that trades their trucks much faster than we do.
Yeah, we could. I mean, the newest, I think the newest I've seen out on the market are maybe 10 to 12 years old. So again, it depends. It depends on how you want to look at your equipment replacement down the line. With purchasing new, we would have a pretty good long period of time. I mean, our Pierce is a 1996. So you look at, they don't want any truck really. NFPA doesn't recommend any truck that's older than 25 years. Our GMC is there. It's at that. It's beyond
If you
that.
bought a truck that was 10 years old and you got 15 years worth of life out of it for X number of dollars compared to that for 25 years, that's what you're basically, the equation comes down to, right?
Yeah.
The truck you want to replace is 28 years old.
It was built in 1988,
26.
so whatever, it's 26.
All right. And I heard, somebody told me the other day that it has to run for 10 minutes before you can take it on the road. Is that?
Well, it has a buildup of air on the air brakes. It doesn't have to run for 10 minutes. It's usually started every day or every other day, so we keep that
Okay,
air.
So it's the air tank that needs to be the brakes.
Yeah, and those are things that we've continually put maintenance into up at Lambert's.
Is this truck gonna have that same issue?
No, this has a built-in shoreline connection.
Okay, so, while your truck's sitting there now building up air pressure, my house is burning.
That's not the lead truck.
That's not our
The
main
lead truck is the Pierce that'll go out the garage first. The second one, hopefully they fired up, and by the time that one's ready to go, the Pierce is already at your fire,
Still 28
right?
years old, you're making parts for it.
Well, we've ran into that a couple times this year where the part failed and they don't make that part anymore.
So when
they're,
you're making the part, the truck's down.
yes, and when one of our trucks down, the township, one of the nearby townships is on standby for us, just as we are for them when they have trucks down for maintenance.
Thank you.
He can get a truck to a fire right away, but the second truck, if he needs a second truck, you might wait a while.
When I visited public safety and we looked at that, I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 minutes before it. And I don't know if that vehicle had been
Before you could
started
build up
that
enough
day,
air to move.
Before it could move. But that was, again, that's a secondary truck. That's not the initial truck that rolls out.
It's still 50% of the fighting capacity of this town.
You wanna have a real trip, go up the North Hill with him.
Yeah, horse and buggy would be quicker, honestly,
Why?
going up a hill.
Get our trucks up that hill. I know what they're talking about there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next we're gonna talk about, City Hall renovations. In 2010, we hired OHM, it's an engineering company out of Houghton, to do an analysis of our building and give us a list of what needs to be upgraded. Keep in mind, this is a polling place, so the state of Michigan does come in and inspect are we meeting, you know, their regulations to continue this as a polling place? The work with the ramp a couple years ago was a prime example of that. The ramp we had really didn't meet state requirements, so we, that was kind of on the first of our list to get that taken care of. So we have done some upgrades here at City Hall. The total, you know, staying here, remodeling, it was like 1.2 million. We've really scaled down that number, really to essentials. You know, windows, we need new windows. These are not efficient anymore. On the exterior part of the building, 3 sides need to be tuck pointed in between the bricks. We need some electrical upgrades, restroom modifications in the back, some remodeling on this main floor. We've added some security features here, the front doors that lock, the cameras. Our front cashier window really needs some remodeling done to it for security reasons. Couple additional security cameras. Emergency generator, if the power goes out tonight, we don't have a generator here at City Hall to, you know, get our phones working, and City Hall is supposed to be an emergency shelter for people to come in severe weather and stuff, so we really do need to get a generator here. Electric department has one. You know, would it be efficient or whatever for us to share one? That's all the things we're working on with that. When we redid the furnaces in the basement, the 2 back garages here are not heated at all right now. Any room in a home that's for a long period of time not heated is going to deteriorate pretty fast. We thought just even some Modine heaters in the back garages, just so that, you know, the walls and drywall and stuff doesn't deteriorate back there. Some of these projects we can't just hire anybody. There's going to need to be some engineering work to do the restrooms, maybe some electrical stuff. So I put money in there. Contingency. So just these right here is $306,200. If we can finance that over 15 years, we're looking at $28,000 a year, or 0.28 mils of the 3.17. So nothing, this does not include the elevator, which the original plan called for, to really utilize the the main floor upstairs. They required an elevator that was like $152,000. And then the original plan called for the chambers, this area being moved upstairs. We're not considering that. So, any questions on? Yeah.
Darla, these windows have been replaced, and they're not efficient anymore?
These were put in the 80s, these windows.
Put your hand up next to them, you'll feel the breeze coming through.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't mean they couldn't be because they were put in the 80s.
Because they don't lock right, the centers of them. We've had Nest Glass come and look at them. So we just approved a couple commission meetings ago to replace the windows downstairs this year. I think that was $10,000. So for windows on the main floor and the upper level is what this is. Windows, $33,000. Whatever we can do to make them more efficient.
Yeah, well, I just know they've been replaced at least once, and I guess I don't see why they haven't held up.
Mayor Romaki, it seems like yesterday, but it was almost 30 years ago. Yeah, I know. I have that happen all the time.
Anything else on City Hall? Just a couple details about the officer. In 2004, we had 12 sworn positions. I think we've talked quite a bit recently about the daily routine of a public safety officer today is completely different than, 10, 20 years ago. That's just a fact of society. Anything you wanna add, Paul?
No, I guess,
Maybe we track number of complaints and they continue to rise
yeah.
with less people.
I guess our, you know, we've lost 25% of our staff in that, and I really do, I understand the concerns about, you know, there never seems to be an officer when you need them at a specific location, but there are, you know, a lot of activities in the town that everybody's trying to pull for attention, and, you know, I struggle trying to, you know, figure out what best to place our resources towards, and I, you know, we have to do what we do with what we have. I understand that, but we've been trying to replace and add a position for quite some time, so, yes.
Do we have a lot of times when there's only one officer on duty?
Yeah, I hesitate to talk in detail about that because, you know, I don't wanna say when exactly those hours are, but yes, we do. I mean, we have, there's a portion of each day where we do have only one officer on. There's quite a few weekends where we have a portion of each day, possibly when there's nobody on, you know, only one on, and that's due to trying to stay within the current budget that we have and not, you know, work people into submission either. For a couple years, we tried to provide the same amount of services in terms of two-person coverage, and we had officers with way too much overtime, you know, and it's not necessarily, you know, my complaint, so to speak, but, you know, my position's changed quite a bit since I first came into it too. I mean, I'm doing a lot of the road activities in addition to trying to do the administrative ones, and it's been somewhat of a struggle, but, so yes, there is portions of the day where we only have one on.
We'd rather the bad guys not know that.
Well, we're open for discussion here, but I think that's a real need to have two officers on.
And to clarify one thing, this commission's as committed to hire another officer. The purpose for that portion being in here is to make sure that officer stays in perpetuity, so.
Because the city in the past, when things got tight, Commissioner Nemechek said, would you explain to everybody what happened to state revenue sharing? Well, 2/3 of it is gone. The tax revenues are flat, and so the city decided it would be a really brilliant idea to have one officer work alone a lot of the time. We aren't gonna, obviously Paul doesn't wanna tell you how much it is, but I can tell you when there were 12 sworn personnel when I worked here, there were always two guys that came to work at 7 in the morning, worked till 3 at night. One of them might go home, or at 7 at night. One of them might go home at 3 in the afternoon if it was their 8-hour shift, because each one of them works an 8-hour shift, but he was immediately replaced. More often than not, however, there'd be 2 officers on from 7 in the morning till 7 at night, 2 officers on from 7 at night till 7 in the morning, and quite often, they could schedule another man from 3 in the afternoon to 3 in the morning. So from 3 in the afternoon to 3 in the morning, you had 3 officers, which is the bulk of the time when we got a lot of traffic going on. Now, you might find one man all by himself during some of those hours. And it's not a good idea to have the director be the backup for the officer. He does what he can, but it's not a good long-term plan.
We certainly, you know, and we work closely with the sheriff's department, we work closely with the state police post. But I would caution to depend on them. There's many times where the state police have had no coverage for our area. They're covering not only Delta County, but Menominee County, and they might have one car on that's in Menominee. The sheriff's department may have one car on, and they're doubled up and they're in Garden. You know, the coverage across the state, I think, has, you know, gone down because numbers have really fallen, you know, since maybe 2005, 2006. I believe the last MCOL statistic was there's about 20-some thousand officers less in the state. Maybe maybe I'm off on that, but it's dropped significantly.
When you see reports of officers having to draw their weapon and fire at somebody, it's most often, I'll bet you, always that officer's alone because he has no backup. It's him against whoever's coming after him.
I guess I think it's a dangerous situation for the community when there's only one officer on.
Absolutely. Darla?
Okay. The next, these two boards go together. So this is some pictures of the equipment that our Public Works and various employees from different departments drive routinely, rusted. I mean, the interior's just nothing left to it. Last winter, this is the snow thrower that we used to clear Delta Avenue into the dump trucks. We thought was a good one and one backup. They were both broken. So we had to pick up snow with a front end loader. That's much more costly than the snow thrower. I think we purchased a pickup truck or two in the last couple of years. These are 100,000, 150, 200,000, some of them. So this is our existing equipment. What we're looking at is a new dump truck with plow, underbody scraper, and wing, estimated $200,000. At our last commission meeting, we talked about the success that we had with purchasing a slightly used backup garbage truck, and a local company here found a slightly used one for us. We would consider the same thing with dump trucks or any of this equipment. Slightly used, same with the fire truck. If some community uses it 5 years, trades it in for a new one, we would be glad to take that slightly used one. So just to replace in the next 5 years, 7 pieces of equipment comes to $845,000. Right here, oh. $845,000. If we financed them for 15 years, our annual payment would be $74,000, or 0.74 of the 3.17. Again, we're not looking to have the best of everything, but just something a little better than what we're currently using.
If anybody goes down to the Public Works garage and looks at all the big piece of equipment, not pickup trucks, but all the rest of the equipment, bulldozers, front end loaders, graders, backhoe, dump trucks, the jet factor truck and the street sweeper truck, nothing's been replaced in at least 12 years. That's 12 years of hard use.
And how many of them did we purchase, maybe used back then?
So every time we end up plowing, our mechanic ends up spending a lot of time trying to get it back, get a piece of equipment back on the road, because inevitably it breaks down. And of course, the older the equipment is, the harder it is to find parts for it.
And the maintenance cost too on what we currently have.
Of that,
Go up and up.
in that plan in the next 5 years, there's some equipment that needs to go away, just quite honestly. And I think that should be a goal of the cities, is that some of this stuff just needs to go away, get out of our city, not come back. And we would not replace it with as much equipment. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can get rid of. There's just no value in them anymore, and so we do have a little less. We have less people, so we don't need quite as much equipment. But I just did an analysis of the age of the equipment we have removed in this plan, and I think, I don't know, my eyes are so bad. Is there about 10 pieces of equipment there?
Yeah.
Yeah, of those 10 pieces of equipment, the average age on those is 22 years.
We're talking about a 26-year-old fire truck.
Had to be hauled in, so I certainly agree with you. This equipment seems
It needs to go away and not be here for us to take care of anymore. So at 22 years old, on that 10 pieces of equipment, that's all. I've never driven a car that long, but.
Do we have a reciprocal agreement with Escanaba, and how is it working?
We do. So our garbage truck broke down this past fall. We didn't have the backup truck yet. When we have to use their equipment, it comes with their operator. And then one of our people ride with them and say, here's the route to pick up garbage or recycling or whatever. Yeah, we are able, when they have an extra, we may have to start later in the day. We may have to alter our schedule a little bit to accommodate when it's available.
That's why we purchased the backup solid waste removal truck. We felt it was money well spent to have our own backup as opposed to renting theirs, because it's not free. Plus, we pay for their operator.
So that was my question. You have to, they don't do this for free.
No, they don't love us that much.
We pay
So
them
you
for the
can
use of
pay
the
them
truck.
or you can pay the truck. Oh.
Exactly.
Their truck comes with their operator, so we
Right.
have to pay
But I
for the
mean,
truck and.
You're gonna, all right. It's not free. Dang.
Anything else on equipment?
And the average, the age of these things is like
22 years old.
Of those
Of the
10.
larger pieces.
Right.
We have some newer pickup trucks, but 1985 plow dump truck, 1990 International plow dump truck, 1985 snow blower, 1996 case backhoe, 1989 salt sander truck.
It's important to just budget, I mean, so this is just this issue, you know, that's, you know, there's gonna, long past when I'm gone, there's still gonna be needs here. So it's also a lesson in budgeting for the future and planning ahead. So just as this 5 years goes ahead, we need to know what's gonna happen in year 6 and 7, you know, and then budget accordingly, because they just don't get better. They
Just
just
to
get.
point out too, so Public Works are the main people that drive this equipment, but they also work for other departments. If we're replacing a water main, we could have a DPW operator in the backhoe digging the hole for the water main, that's for the water department, or sewer main for the sewer department. The lighthouse we did and the fishing pier and stuff, a lot of our Public Works employees and equipment were working on that project. So it really, I mean, this equipment is used citywide, multiple departments.
Darla?
Yeah.
The public sees a new squad car, a new Ford Explorer. We should tell people where that fund they then donated, right?
Well, there's the Olson Trust.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Olson was a gentleman, lived up on the bluff, passed away maybe 10 years ago, maybe not even that long.
Not that
He
long.
left the city public safety department specifically, 150,000, I think it was, somewhere in there.
About 127.
127,000, so that's earmarked for public safety, cannot be used for operations, but it can be used for necessary equipment that we need. So maybe the last couple cars, we've used a little bit of that. We've applied for Hannibal 2% money.
Right.
We've had USDA money by our patrol cars.
I just make the comment because people see a new patrol car and they think, wow, my gosh, you know, the city must be really in good shape. We got a brand new squad car. Well, the money comes from different sources. It's not operational money.
Right.
We try to replace a squad car about every 4 to 5 years, which is around 100 to 130,000 miles on the car. They, you know, I know people driving cars that have 200,000 miles, but they don't quite necessarily get the hard idling and the use that a squad car gets. Most of our cars at about 100 to 110,000 miles are at replacement time, and we've been proactive trying to use USDA money, and we've now come out of the equipment fund. We used to be in it, but I only think the equipment fund, when we were in it, purchased one vehicle in that time that we were in it.
I just want people to realize that money comes from different places.
Any grants we can apply for, we're applying for. So lastly is our Public Works building. These are some pictures of the building today. This building was built in, what did we decide, 1971?
71, I believe it was built. 71, 72,
71.
somewhere in there.
It's to the point of, it's not efficient, but maybe health-wise dangerous, you know? A lot of them, so it was built in sections. Some sections aren't heated. There was a modine heater in there, they don't work anymore. In the main part, in the middle part, we're cramming vehicles in there every which way we can just to get them out of the elements. we have garage doors that are beyond repair. We've repaired what we can. This one you can see is not very insulated. You can see the sun coming right through it. We've priced out 3 different options for a new building. 2 of them renovate the existing building by adding on and reconfiguring where vehicles come in and out of the garages. That's these 2. We've worked with a local engineering company to get estimates on this. They tell us it's $1.5 million to renovate the existing building. Was it late 2013? We worked with, so the city owns a piece of property across from White Pit Casket, kind of in front of Upper Lakes Coal there on Delta Avenue as you turn the corner. The city owns about 5 acres of land there. We had priced out a new building and site work there in, I think it was late 2013. That's $1.5 million. So that's the number we're going with. Either way, again, if the millage passes, then we'll come back to the public and say, this one we're working with Golder & Associates, a local engineering company, on some soil analysis. If you can see here, there were previously tanks in the ground here. We don't know if we can cover that, if we need to remove a bunch of dirt before we build. So working with Golder & Associates on that analysis.
That was one thing that didn't make a lot of sense to me at all.
What's that?
How in the world renovating would be the same cost as, correct me if I'm wrong, we have to provide utilities to that new portion
Yes.
also.
This would be utilities to this.
New utilities
yeah.
and everything. How in the world can that be the same as renovating?
It is cheaper just to build it, tear it all down and start over.
You know, they have a skeleton down at the other, I mean, I've been in the building industry since I was about 14 years old, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I wasn't involved with the first one, Mr. Gay. I don't have a clue, quite honestly. But I know the first 2 on the top, those, I worked with the engineers. And, you know, the thing I think that's important too, the term building is fine, but it's actually an operations facility. Right now, there's really no operations facility. It's a building with open access to anybody. In the end, I know those first 2 plans would develop, be secure, gated, places to store things, look more attractive, and handle everything from a facility standpoint, not just a building. The bottom one, I don't know, and I have some concerns about the one on the bottom because of the site. What was there before, I don't know.
You think there's unidentified costs which could drive up the cost of construction? We haven't even identified what those costs are.
And then you still have an old building down at the end of the road you gotta.
That was gonna be my next question, that we still have to deal with that other building. I was involved with, I believe it was Barry, myself, the city manager, and I don't remember who else was involved, but with that preliminary drawing, and it's pretty basic, you know. It was more of a snapshot, an idea of where we wanted to go, so I don't remember what we did as far as costing that out.
We bid it out.
We bid it out, and I believe we got 3
5.
back? No, we did, we got
about
more,
5.
yeah,
5 or 6 maybe.
we had a local,
Narrowed it down to 2 that were kind of comparable, and then we kind of got those in a line.
but we had a lot of questions as far as the brownfield site, which I don't know anything about,
Right.
to be honest.
Roll that site right out of it.
Yeah,
It could.
But, I mean, you don't know.
but in reality, if we were to build a whole new building, if everything went well with that, we still would have to address what's probably is not in the price for that, dealing with the old scrap that is currently the existing building.
I think there'd be some more cost than what was identified in that original plan. That's my take on it.
On the new build.
And you'll end up with kind of, that looks like a pole barn to me. The other one looks a little bit more like the office facility,
I believe that
operations
was a
facility.
steel building that we,
Yeah, well, it's right there. I mean,
Yeah.
just look at it, you'll see what
Yeah.
I mean. It's
Yeah.
just different look, so.
Any question?
You know the usable life, the expected usable life of either of the renovations versus the new
imagine you're probably 25, 30, 40 years, for that. I don't see us, I just think that existing site's not bad. I mean, the location gets us right downtown. And either site is, from a standpoint of being downtown, is good. We can look, though, I mean, and ask the engineer that lifespan.
Are you done with your presentation, Darrell?
That new building, would that store all of our equipment in there so it's out of the weather, or
Yes.
would some stuff still be outside?
It would be primarily indoors. We would have some covered storage on the north side and the from at the existing site where we're at. The way people come in and out would be a lot different. It wouldn't have roads all the way around it. It would be on, just doubtful would be there. Yeah, I have to look at the plans. It kind of lays it out pretty well, I think.
Right now, most of our equipment does fit inside the garage we have, but it's,
Barely.
you might need to move 3 pieces to get the piece you want out,
The mornings are very interesting. Just watch out.
So your presentation, that's it, the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, what I was planning on doing is now going to the public and asking people to take the mic and comment on what you've heard. So if anybody'd like to take that opportunity, now's your opportunity. Yes. Mr. Juno.
Yes. The city, to me, owns a lot of property. Have you ever thought of selling some of this property off?
We do
And
have
one piece I'm thinking about is the park on the lakefront. You got a dog run there? I haven't seen a dog.
If you're talking about Van Cleve Park, and I have a specific definition of what I mean when I say Van Cleve Park, if you come from that, if you turn off the highway where you see the sign Van Cleve Park, it's a big brown sign, can't miss it.
You know where the beach hall is? The big
I'm-
beach house?
Listen to me.
Okay.
If you come down off of Lakeshore Drive where you see the sign that says Van Cleve Park, that way, from that point, continuing on Lakeshore Drive is Van Cleve Park. Up to Van Cleve Park, between the last house and up to that sign is not city-owned property. We lease it, okay? So, with those definitions in mind, the stuff that says Van Cleve Park, we cannot sell.
Okay.
It was given to us by a fellow who said, I'm not paying taxes on a swamp anymore, I'm gonna give it to you, but you can't sell it. The stuff from that sign back towards that house going that way is not our property, and if we got out from underneath that lease, who knows what the owner would do with it. But we can't sell the park. We're not allowed to.
Well, that shoots that down.
Yeah.
How about across from 4J's? That old gas
We
station.
have thought
Why?
about some various options there, but one of the options was to get out of there with our Parks and Recreation Department and move to another facility. The first facility we looked at was across the street, which is the old school bus garage, and then we would have marketed that property, but we still won't have a home for Parks and Recreation, so.
Correct.
Other
But
than
why
where
would
we're
you want
operating
that
at.
old school bus building?
We looked at it, but it wasn't available to us. We negotiated for quite a
Because
while.
you're just buying a white elephant and just sock more money into it.
Well, I think Commissioner Gay probably would agree with you on that.
Yep. Money pit.
My third one is the ski hill. Now, I talked about that ski hill to your director that runs this recreation.
Yep.
And my suggestion was to sell that to a developer and put a water slide up there and a hotel and a conference room.
God, I love how you think. I've thought that many times, and I've brought it up at meetings. I think it's one of the prime pieces of real estate in Gladstone.
Because if you want to get people up here, you have to have something to come up here for.
We hired UPEA, UP Engineers and Architects last year, and they did a plan for a lot of the property around the sports park. And there was residential property identified in that plan, if we could sell more residential property to offset some of the costs to do some of the improvements at the sports park.
There was conversation also about a water park.
Yep.
There was no conversation about a hotel, even though I agree with you, that is prime area for that type of development. When I worked through the city, I actually had the opportunity to sell that ski hill to developers, and they turned it down.
Well, they missed a hell of an opportunity out there.
I might tend to agree with you.
Yeah. How much are you making a year on that ski hill? We still losing money?
It costs money to operate it over and above over and above the revenues.
So then
It's not free.
That's a good reason to get rid of it. Because this city can't afford another deficit.
Well,
You
this
got all
year
these
will be a
parks.
good test with with the pond and the snowmaking equipment.
Snowmaking equipment's no good if nobody's coming. Now, another suggestion, do away with that ski hill. People wanna ski, you set up an agreement with the one in Marquette. You come here, and we'll pay from taxpayers' money. So you can go up there in Marquette and ski. I think it'd be a hell of a lot cheaper than us maintaining that ski hill.
I've heard this lots of times in my tenure at the City of Gladstone, so I've heard this before.
Right.
Yeah.
Evidently, it's not sinking in because nobody's doing nothing about it.
Apparently.
Yeah. I contacted Marquette Mountain to see if they wanted to run that hill as a feeder hill.
No, you're losing money.
I know.
I mean,
But if it was a feeder
why
hill.
would they come in there and want to take
If it was
over
a
a
hill that
deficit?
would feed Marquette Mountain, teach people to ski here, and then they go to Marquette Mountain, that was my thought, but Marquette Mountain wasn't interested.
And all the stuff that you had, the ski hill, the baseball parks, the beach, you're just looking for a big lawsuit. Somebody gets injured, they're gonna sue this city.
I believe if you were to attend a Parks and Recreation Board meeting, you'd hear something along the lines of, and I'm not being sarcastic here, we have to provide something for the kids to do, and that's the rationale the city has always used to spend we spend a lot more per person than most cities our size for parks and recreation activities. We do. It's just a cultural thing. And that's commonly what you hear, so.
How many ballparks you got in this town?
Off the top of my head, how many ballparks do we have?
4, 3 up on the bluff and 1 downtown.
How many you need?
Well, they're not city run though.
Depends
How
who
many
you
we
ask. That depends on who you
2?
ask.
There's a certain quality of life we think about too. I mean, we're year-round playground, we can't just close everything down because it costs money.
Well, you either gonna close it down because it costs money, or you're gonna close it down because you run out of money.
The ski hill will hopefully break even this year. We have other
Hopefully.
parts of the recreation department that make money. The campground makes money. The yacht harbor makes money.
And I would wish you would put something on Facebook. I think the last one was updated in 2002, 2003, with the financial report for all your parks and,
On the website or Facebook?
I went on to Facebook.
We have a special event Facebook page, a public safety page, and that's it, that we provide information to. Our city website has,
Well, I Googled it in, City of Gladstone, and that's what I come up with. And,
And that's not Facebook, that's the World Wide Web's website.
well, the web.
For the City of Gladstone.
But
Yeah, but we're
none
getting
of that
metaphors
information's
mixed.
updated.
But we're getting metaphors mixed. He's talking about Facebook, and
Yeah.
what you're directing this gentleman to is the City of Gladstone's website, which has most of that information on it. So you probably didn't end up in the right place.
So who does that web?
the
Maintain it
website we
in-house.
maintain.
Oh, because it has the age of everybody in town, percentage, the color,
That's a sense.
Yeah.
it has everything on that web.
Let's get back to the issue at hand.
The
Well,
issue at
we
hand
have
is that
citizen-
ski hill.
Okay,
And I would highly suggest you sell that to a developer and put some stipulations in there. That he has to have at least 1 water slide. You'll make more money off of that than you would with that ski hill. Cause you're losing in the ski hill.
Okay.
And everything you put in here, parks. Now you wanna put a path to Escanaba. All that costs money to maintain. Where you gonna get all that money? hit these people out here again? That's why they're here tonight. They're taxed out. Between the city and the school, there's no money left.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to make one comment. I think that it's, to me, it's fairly obvious that the city needs more money to operate, to meet the basic needs that the people expect and demand in this community. And that's my reaction to the presentation tonight. I would also like to point out to the commissioners that after sitting up there where you're sitting for 15 years, it's a lot more relaxing sitting where I'm sitting tonight.
You had to rub that in, didn't you? Anybody else?
My turn to rant and rave.
Your turn to rant and rave, Steve.
Okay, doesn't really matter who voted for it and who didn't. The 1.8, the perception was that you guys snuck it in the back door. Yeah, I gotta tell you that that was my first reaction. Now, having talked to everybody and learned what really happened, I know that was not the intent. But that's what it looked like. So, and I think everybody knows now that you're gonna tell everybody ahead of time when they do anything like that. And having said that, anybody who really thinks about it knows that eventually you're gonna have to ask for that 1.8 back. Because, you know, you took it from here and you put it in here, and so I'm paying here or I'm paying here, well, now I'm paying here. But if I was paying here, you were just gonna raise this anyway, eventually, because you do need more money. So, and you're doing it right. You're gonna ask everybody again, let them know, and we get to vote on it and everything, and so, you know, I have a question. You vote for the entire 3 whatever, or not at all? Is that it, or can you just vote for parts of it?
I think we have yet to figure that out. We started to discuss that previously, but I think, I don't know, we'll have to find out. My thought was that it actually, we've broken down into separate questions.
Okay.
Well,
we'll see.
And that would be, it depends on how we go about restricting it, I think.
Well, let me
So-
stop you right there. Each one of those panels that the city manager just discussed has a millage amount behind it. So wouldn't that lead you to think that you probably can pick and choose?
Yep, I would think so.
Yeah, we'll see, if we can or can't. A 28-year-old fire truck, all right, that's a given. I don't wanna trust my house to a 28-year-old fire truck. So, the rest of the stuff, as much as I really, really, really hate to say this, I can see my taxes are gonna go, you guys gotta have it. I don't like it, but.
It's not us, Steve, it's the city.
Yeah, I know. And
Because we're all paying the same too.
The city's gotta have it, and I don't like it, but.
I thought you were gonna get up and suggest that we subtract the 1.8 from the 3.27 and make it 1.37.
Well, what's.
Because the 1.8 can be reinstated anytime.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna go, I thought you were going that way, but
Well,
you
you
didn't
could do
head
that,
way.
but eventually you're gonna have to give, if you give it back to us, eventually you're gonna have to ask for it back again, whether you ask for it now or later. You're still, eventually it's gonna have to come back. But,
Yeah, you're right.
so what you're saying is, it's really, you're really only at, because I'm already paying the 1.8, or I will be paying it.
Right.
So it's the 1 point whatever
3.7.
addition on top of that is really what I'm voting for, basically. So it pretty much sucks, but I don't see that choice.
Yeah, that's what we think too.
Well, they
That's where I.
Just to put it in perspective, I'm not diminishing the cost at all, but we were provided with a breakdown for millage rate increase. I asked, all of us asked for staff to provide this for us in relation to your taxable value. And if your taxable value is 25,000, the millage, the full thing at 3.17, the yearly increase is $79.25 or $6.60 a month. At a taxable value of 50,000, it's $158.50 a year, or $13.21 a month. Ultimately, what's going to happen, as we all, I'm sure some of you are aware of the MERS, the things that's going on with the retirement fund, which was mentioned previously. It's not something that we created, but it's something that we have to deal with, and that's very market dependent. They give us projections, but there's nothing more than projections. I don't know the exact number of our MERS payment this year, but it was significant.
600,000.
And it was projected to, I believe, peak in 2020 or 2022, and then start to decline from there. So we have a ways to go before we hit that peak, based on the actuarial, before we start to decline, that annual payment. At some point, that payment has to be paid. So we're in a situation where we deal with this stuff and continue to be a full-service city, or ultimately, that's a bill you can't cut that. It has to be paid. So ultimately, you're gonna be looking at a choice between cutting services or raising taxes.
Anybody that thinks about it is gonna realize that, okay, we can keep the costs where they are now, and as the cost of doing business rises and your income stays the same, you're gonna have to start cutting things. And if you pick up the garbage once every 2 weeks, if you do this, if you do that, but you plow the roads when they really need it, and if you get an inch of snow, or I just pack it down, it'll melt the summer anyway. Eventually, if no income doesn't increase, you are gonna have to start cutting.
Well, cost increase is regularly going up.
Yes.
The only benefit that we're gonna see a small impact, hopefully, on a few areas, our budget's fuel,
There's some areas out here that I could do without, but that doesn't mean the guy next door can do without it, so. The only other thing I wanna say is on the police officer. Oh, yeah, there is another thing. The 1.8 that is coming in effect now anyway, that's going to the general fund. So we have no control where that goes.
We do currently.
The
We do, but
1.8 comes to 1 point whatever that we're voting on is earmarked.
That's correct.
The entire,
But we do have a say in where that goes.
the entire 3.17 would be earmarked.
Right, so we do have.
Yes, and that was one of my problems with the initial 1.8 is we
Well,
couldn't restrict it.
And a lot of people feel better. At least they know where it's going, and they know what's going to go there. All right, that's fine. As far as the police officer goes, I really don't have a problem with paying the guy that stands between me and the bad guy anything he wants, anything he needs. My son-in-law, sheriff's deputy in Ohio, they cut back from 2 people in the vehicle to 1, and 3 months later, his partner was shot in the back of the head because there was one guy in the car and he had a guy back there. Now, yeah, I should have checked the guy before he stuck him back there, but. So, I'm not a fan of one guy in the vehicle. So, that's what it costs to get 2 guys in a vehicle most of the time. Like I say, I really hate saying this, but I think you need it. I think you need the money.
Anybody else?
That's hard.
We
I'm a skinflint from way back.
Hello again. I don't know, since 2001, since I got here, I haven't seen very many businesses come into the city compared to what's left. So consider this before you even throw a proposal out to us. attract more businesses, you get more people that wanna live here, more people that work here, you're gonna get more money. That's a formula for success for any city that's doing well. You have a ball diamond here by the beachfront, by the yacht harbor. There's enough land up there, you can build another one. That's prime real estate right there. Take a look on that map. You find someone that's willing to get some condos in there, nothing outrageous.
Let
One
me give you
side
the
out of-
definition of Van Cleve Park again. Van Cleve Park stops approximately where you enter into the yacht club. Beyond that is technically City Park, and that is where the ballpark is. That could be sold, to my knowledge. I believe we have title work that says that. But between where you go into the yacht club, 10th Street, and that sign I mentioned, wait on that end,
I
that
understand
was
that.
given to us with restrictions, so you're absolutely correct.
Right,
That
that's
could
why,
be-
but I don't know if you have any other parcels around here that are even remotely like that, that can be marketed. Think about it, you don't need
Right
much for
next to public
condos there.
safety.
On the back side, they can pop a seawall where they can advertise, you can have your own condo with your own dock. I mean,
Docominium.
those people though, that can afford that, to have a boat and a condo, you're talking about attracting people who wanna spend money. They will come from far away and spend buku bucks for gas to travel up here to their condo to hang around for the summer. You don't have much of an impact for crime. Your worst case scenario, you might have a slip and a fall or maybe a medical run there. I mean, you're not gonna have much impact where public safety would have to be overburdened with that type of a development. But there's a lot of stuff you guys can do. Good luck with whatever you plan on doing, because the only thing I'm in favor of is the fire truck getting replaced and a public safety officer. As long as the garbage gets picked up, the snow gets plowed, those are the quality of life things people here want. I could do without, there's Boy Scout troops and other organizations, they'll come down and help out with some of the parks, they'll pop some flowers in. You might have some local people here willing to let some of the classrooms come down for their students to learn about biology by planting some flowers in some of these parks. There's common sense things that can be done, and that's what you guys need to really look at what you're doing before you ask for more money. I would agree you might need about 2.5 mils tops. My whole problem with everything is the way the 1.8 was snuck in. I think it was wrong, and I've made that very clear in the letters to the editor. I've made it very clear to you, and I'm making it very clear to all the rest of the citizens out there. They're ticked off. That's what they're telling me. It's not that they're all ticked off at you. People in your position and past commissioners. The stories I've been hearing from people who have been here for their whole lives, that are 80 some odd years old. I can't say them in public here, especially since you guys have it on the TV. I'm hearing stories that I'm like, I'm listening to constantly, writing stuff down. What I've told you is just scratching the tip of the iceberg for the way people feel about their Gladstone leaders or their Gladstone city officials. That attitude needs to change from within. And it has to change from within City Hall first. If people saw the roads were in perfect condition, they wouldn't care about buying a new truck or a new building. They'd know that these folks are out there trying their best to scrape it versus waiting a couple, 3 days before they even roll the trucks. Those are the kind of things you're gonna have to overcome. I'm not gonna say yay or nay on anything other than I'm telling you right now, yeah, you need a new fire truck. I don't want my house burning down because you only have one that's working. I don't wanna be that guy. Nor do I wanna have to worry about who's gonna come to my house should I ever need a police officer some night, should anyone decide to do something bad. I want to have 2 officers on duty so that they can respond properly to all parts of the city and protect us. Thank you.
Anybody else in the public? Anything new? All right, I'm gonna hopefully get through this really quickly with the commission. I don't know that there's a whole lot more to add, but I'm gonna start again down with Commissioner Nemechek.
Well, I don't have anything.
I'm sorry.
The official public hearing then at 9:03 for the record.
We're closing the public hearing at 9:03.
Thank you.
So I'll entertain brief comments from the commissioners, because, I think we've kicked this thing to death. Commissioner Nemechek.
No, I don't have anything else to add.
Commissioner Bostwick.
No more.
Commissioner Gay.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Mattinen.
Nothing to add.
I have a couple things to add. First of all, I think that it's very important that the people have a say on this, and they're gonna have a say whether we do this or not. If we don't get 3.17 mils, we don't get 3.17 mils, and we go on with life. That 1.8 mils, I think could be reduced significantly and still provide for a public safety officer, but the rest of these items wouldn't be taken care of, but that's not up to me to decide. I just know that somebody should know that those are things we're not doing right now that we really ought to be looking at doing. So I would definitely want language that ties up how any money that may be approved by the voters would be used in the future. And the second thing is, and I think Mr. DeClaire has a very good point, we haven't had growth, and certainly part of the reason why we haven't had growth is because it's already perceived to be expensive to live in the city, and so we need to do a much better job of marketing what we are doing for the citizens if we are to hope for the citizens to vote to give us even more money. And the potential for a boomerang effect, which is that property values would decrease even greater, and therefore that 3.17 mils wouldn't bring in as much money, are very real. Very real, that we would end up with a drop in our taxable values because the perception is that it's even more expensive to live in the city. And so that's all about marketing. And as far as the comments about properties being developed, I did contact the city manager. I told the commission at our last meeting, the most prime piece of property in the city is not on top of the bluff. It used to be. Could go into the reasons for that, but I won't. The most prime piece of property is right next to public safety, and that is something that we need to get on top of. I proposed sending a letter, but we actually have somebody from our marketing arm who has been making contacts with the owners down there, and at this point in time, I'm willing to hold off having the city commission get involved in that. But I think that is very important for our future, and the whole reason why it's important is very simple. It's a no-brainer. If you have more taxable value to tax against, then you don't need as much millage. It's simple as that. And there are a couple of other properties as well that are on the waterfront that I think would be very attractive to developers. And so if we could increase our base, we wouldn't need to levy as much millage as we're levying right now. The problem we have right now is that the existing properties are not increasing in value, and we're not getting any new construction hardly at all. I'm not looking to point fault at anybody for that. It's just a fact, and it's something we need to deal with. So we need to reverse that trend, and we need to do a much better job than we've ever done marketing the fact that while it may be more expensive to live in the city, there's a reason for it, and you can expect superior service. So that would be what I'd hope as we go forward. But somebody's going to have to do something about these problems, no matter who the commission happens to be. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. When we know we have to make a decision by February 10th. If we're going to get a ballot proposal in May.
Absolutely.
So I would hope that by our second meeting in January, we can get some language in place before the commission that ties up this revenue so that it gets used for the purpose we're asking the people to vote on. And if we decide to put a millage proposal out there in May, that we're going to have to do a lot of marketing between are deciding to put that on the ballot in May so that people have enough information to make a good decision. I think that pretty much sums up what I had to say. So we've closed our public hearing on that matter. We're going to be putting this on our agenda for our second meeting in January for the commission to make a decision. Is there anything further you had to add, Darla, on behalf of your staff or yourself?
In the phone calls that I've made prior to tonight's meeting with Miller Canfield and Edward Jones, they can help us with the language.
Okay.
Who would like to help us with that?
What? I looked at you, you looked at me like, who wants to be stupid enough to do that? No. Yeah, okay. Commissioner Gay says he's volunteering, I guess.
Because I think that I'll call them tomorrow and say when can we even do a phone conference, you know, to get started
Okay
on
with the rest of the commission?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we will be coming back in our second meeting in January with a more solid proposal that we're going to hopefully put before the voters and let the voters decide what they want to do in our community. So we're moving on to, we don't have any unfinished business. We're moving to new business. Our first item is set budget workshops for fiscal year 2015-16 budget. We have some proposals from staff. We're looking at February 2nd and 3rd, which would be a Monday and Tuesday, or February 16 and 17. I can already tell you on February 2nd, I would not be available.
It'd be better for me 16, 17 also.
I'll be out of town, that first week of February also.
And I already know that you're not going to be here, Commissioner Mattson, you're going to be somewhere much warmer. Jay?
February 16th, 17th is fine. Does that work?
Okay, we'll go with that then.
5 to 7 p.m.
When we, 5 to 7 p.m. works for everybody, that's,
Yeah.
time's okay? So we need a motion on that, correct? You thought I was gonna forget.
So moved.
I support.
Moved by Commissioner Gay, supported by Commissioner Bostwick to set budget workshops for fiscal year 2015-16 budget on February 16th and 17th. That would be a Monday and a Tuesday from 5 to 7 p.m. And of course, everybody's welcome to be here for those meetings. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion is carried. Next item is board review, federal poverty level guidelines. I can probably help you on this one. We're required to exempt a part or perhaps all of somebody's property taxes if they meet the poverty exemption guidelines, which are given to us. They're basically based on how many people live in a household and how much income, however many people that live in that household have. They have to fill out an application with the city assessor. The city assessor's got to bring that before the board of review. And in addition to these poverty income guidelines, the board of review also has to have the party who makes an application, if they do decide to make an application, disclose any assets they may have, and then the board of review makes a decision based on the income and the assets of the people that live in a household that may request a poverty exemption.
I move approval of the guidelines.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Nemecheck, supported by Commissioner Mattson to approve the Board Review 2015 Federal Poverty Level Guidelines. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion is carried. Reappointments to the Board of Review. We're being asked to reappoint Mr. Howard Hollett, Mr. Jason Lippens, and Mr. John Norris as members, and Ms. Henrietta Miller as the alternate member to the Board of Review for another 2-year term. We still have one vacancy on this board. So, I would ask for a motion for the commission to approve that.
I'll move.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Nemecheck, supported by Commissioner Gay to reappoint the persons I just noted to the Board of Review. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion is carried. The next item on our agenda is city clerk evaluation. I'm assuming you're going to want to go in closed session, which is your right as an employee to do that?
Yes.
So having said that, we will move that to the end of our agenda and move on to city manager reports.
Just have a few things. DDA and EDC board meetings both tomorrow. DDA 8 a.m., EDC noon. We received a letter from the Attorney General, Bill Schuette, approving our next Michigan Development District. That's what we've been working on with Delta County and Marquette County. Now it's in the hands of the governor. So budget worksheets have already been forwarded to department supervisors. Next week is when I sit down with each of them and combine all the budget requests. So we'll be busy with budgets. That's all I have.
Moving on to city commission and committee reports and board and commission reports. Does anybody have any board meetings they went to they want to report on? Hearing none. We're back to public comment, the third time actually tonight. Hearing none. Moving to city commissioner comments, starting with Commissioner Nemecheck.
My only comment was, it's good that we had people interested in coming, and I appreciate your comments.
Have you had anybody contact you personally?
I have not.
Commissioner Bostwick, you're next. Any commissioner comments?
Just as Dave said, I'd like to appreciate you guys all coming here. I've not had anyone contact me either. If anyone wants to talk about anything, I'm always open.
Commissioner Gay?
I've always been pounding the table to get people in here, and sometimes headlines help us with that, which is nice.
Did you see yourself in that comment?
No, I was not referencing her at all. I think we're kind of at a pivotal point where you need to use, the residents need to use the ballot box to tell us what your priorities are. Oftentimes, we come in to a city commission meeting and it's our representative from the local media outlet and city staff, commissioners and crickets chirping. So I've always been trying to, anyone that complains to me after I provide them the proper, department head or city manager, someone to contact, my next statement is, have you been to a city commission meeting? We need to hear, without direction from the public, we have individual conversations, I'm sure all of us do with some people, but there's a lot of people in town I don't know. I have no idea what their disposition is as to their priorities or how they feel about things in the city. So, and primarily for the people watching on TV, if you can, I would definitely encourage you to get out and make your voices heard. And I am quite certain that if this does get on the ballot, we will definitely, as the mayor indicated, we will definitely have to look at, I hate to say advertising, but basically getting the word out as to what we're doing with this. People go to a ballot box and say, well, you're going to raise my taxes for what? And unfortunately, the vast majority of the people that will step into the ballot box will have no idea what we're raising taxes for or what we're asking them to raise taxes for. So, as I indicated in a previous meeting, I think this is going to be, if this goes on the ballot, it's going to be a very broad and extensive communication project to the city residents so they know exactly what we're asking for. So, I would just encourage people to get out and be heard. That's all I've got.
Commissioner Mattman.
I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight and sharing your thoughts and concerns, and for those folks who might see this on a tape delay, or at any point hear some information out there in regard to especially the millage question, feel free to call, and the more information, the more dialogue we can have, the better it's going to be for everyone. And when people understand things, even if we don't necessarily like them, we can still come up with good solutions normally. It's when we don't communicate properly and people don't maybe take an interest in really finding out what it's all about. So again, thanks for everyone that's been here tonight.
Well, I could say thank you for everybody being here tonight too, but it's already been done. I guess I'd rather go with the city manager. I thought did a really nice presentation for everybody, so that when you talk to people on the street, you don't have to be in favor of this, or you can be. It's up to you. Everybody gets to make their vote. But you have a lot of information here now to see what we would propose to do with that money if we were to decide to put a millage question before people, and if people actually voted it in, that's what it would be used for. It's pretty representative, I think. Some other items, the city clerk gave everybody the opportunity to go to some elected officials training. I don't know if anybody took you up on that. I had one. Good.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I'm going to it.
We've got joint government this Wednesday. One of the things you're going to be able to do if you go to that joint government meeting is meet your new county board members who have their own, as they described it in the media, healing process they've got to start over there. I told you about the Bessie Forest Products parcel. I had a conversation for the commissioners with the city manager about the supervisor's post-employment health insurance benefits, which is something we're eventually going to have to take and make a decision on. I met with a party, named Emily Shada, who was interested in serving on one of the boards. We had a really good meeting. I had Darla in on that meeting as well, offered some other opportunities as well to Emily, and so we do have some people who are interested, and anybody else who's interested in serving on one of the advisory boards, take advantage of it. The DDA tomorrow, I'm going to be presenting the ideas that I've shared with the commission from the business persons group about getting the merchants more involved with what the DDA is doing, and so we're going to have, anticipating a lively conversation tomorrow morning at DDA at 8 in the morning, and then we got EDC at noon, so that would be everything I had. We move to city clerk comments.
I have nothing.
You have nothing? Okay. Well, then we need to do the annual evaluation of the city clerk, who is directly supervised by the city commission. And as I said, the city clerk has the option of going into closed session, or we can do it in open session, and you're suggesting you want to go into closed session. So for that, we need to have a motion to go into closed session.
I'd move that we go into closed session.
Support. Moved by Commissioner Matten, supported by Commissioner Gay, to go into closed session to conduct the annual evaluation of the city clerk, and that has to be a voice vote, correct?
Commissioner Mattman?
Yes.
Commissioner Gay?
Yes.
Commissioner Bostrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Nemecheck,
Yes.
and Mayor Mackey.
Yes. So we will be going into executive session, or closed session.